They all help. They all get involved, and it's a great way to not only get the work done, but also bring our family closer together. They'll have their whole lives to think back at that and to look back on the time that we spent as a family building our house. And maybe they'll do the same with their kids, or maybe they'll add on to this one. Hey, this is Paul Gilly here with Gilly Custom. I am in the process of building myself and my family a timber framed house from our own trees on our own land, all cut with our Woodland Mill sawmill. And if you follow my channel, Gilly Custom, on YouTube, you can check out the whole process. So what we're doing here is we're building ourselves a house, right? It's a pretty decent sized house. I have a pretty decent sized family, 6 kids. So we're gonna cram our 6 kids into that little house right there. We decided we were gonna build our dream house a few years ago, a bunch of years ago. It's always been kind of a dream of ours. And then a few years ago, we were able to get our hands on this nice piece of land, a bunch of acres in the woods, very private, a lot of space, all woods, all wooded. We knew we were gonna build a house. Didn't know at first that it was going to be timber framed, and also didn't know at first that we were going to be sawing our own lumber. We just knew that at some point we're building a house on this piece of land whenever we can afford it. And then I discovered I can afford a Woodland Mill sawmill way before I can afford all this lumber. So that's how that all started. I heard about Woodland Mills. Actually, I was looking at stump grinders. I had bought a tractor. I knew I'd be cutting trees, and I was thinking about how I'm going to get rid of stumps. And a buddy of mine said, "Hey, Woodland Mills makes a stump grinder." I'm like, "Cool. What the heck is Woodland Mills?" I looked it up and found the stump grinder. I was like, "That's cool, but what are these other things?" And I saw the sawmills. Like, yeah, that's what I need right there. And I figured I can cut all my own lumber from my own trees to build my house. Who needs a lumber yard, right? I got it right here. I got a yard of timbers. So that was the start of the milling. And then I did end up buying that stump grinder later, and I love it. It's pretty great. And then when we really started thinking about, okay, what kind of house are we going to build? I was dreading the thought of having to mill about, I don't know how many thousands of 2x4s and all these other pieces. So I was looking into other techniques, and I'm thinking, well, timber framing is awesome. I didn't know a whole lot about it. I had done very little of it. And not even pure timber frame, really just post and beam type stuff. But I was thinking, okay, well, that's fewer pieces, but bigger pieces. Less to mill. Then you add some really cool joinery cuts on top of that. Leave it all exposed, and you got yourself a really sweet looking house. So we looked into it a lot and decided, yeah, I think I could do this. I have a decent bit of background in construction, really all my life. I started out in construction and remodeling, and I've built a lot of post and beam type structures, mostly sheds and barns and garages and stuff, but never a true timber frame. Now the difference there is post and beam, usually you got posts and beams, and they're usually connected with some kind of structural hardware, and that's cool, and that can be made to look pretty too. But you can't beat the look of true timber framing, and that's when you have joinery cut in the timbers to make them fit together, and usually attached with nothing but wooden pegs and wedges. You don't need screws or bolts or nails or any of that nonsense. If I were to buy all these timbers, there's no way. There's no way I'd ever be able to afford to buy all these timbers. I mean, you take a log from a tree. I cut down a tree. It cost me nothing except for my time and a few cents worth of fuel in the chainsaw, right? I dragged that tree with my tractor, which did cost me something, but it's paid for itself many times over. And I sit it on the mill, which, yeah, cost me something, but not anything substantial compared to what I'm getting out of it. I stick that log on the mill in a matter of, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. It's a timber that's worth a few $100s. So it's a no-brainer. Then pick it up with the tractor and stack it with all the others, and there you go. So that mill is what made this possible to begin with. There's no way I'd be able to afford to build the house that we're building, to build it this big for one, and to timber frame it without the sawmill. There's just no way. There it is. All right, let's fire it up and mill up this log. All right, we got it fired up. When I first started this, my level of knowledge was very, very limited. But when I started looking into timber framing and how cool the joinery looked and all that, I decided that's what I got to do. I got to make it traditional style. So I went online. I went on YouTube. Hey, YouTube, what do you know? And I started looking at what other people were doing. Guys like me now, who were figuring it out as they went. And then also guys like Dan from Two Guys Timber Framing, who's been doing it his whole life and now is showing the rest of the world. I learned a lot from his channel. The biggest thing, though, was when I decided, okay, let's give it a shot. And I just started cutting. And my first mortise, I mortised out entirely by hand with a chisel, and it turned out great. But I bought the tools, and I just started making some sample cuts. Yeah, I cut something on the mill and say, okay, let's try to make a starting with something simple like a lap joint. Now a simple mortise and tenon. Now a half dovetail through mortise, wedged through mortise. And I just started cutting a few of these to see if I could do it. And well, really, I figured I could do it, but to practice and to see how long it would take me to do it. And I started making these cuts and loved every second of it. First, we built the shed around the sawmill. That is not a true timber frame, but it's kind of like a baby step timber frame. Then we built this barn here. I had some practice under my belt after building this barn. Had some practice in, and we were able to do a little bit better, a little bit more complicated joinery, some scarf joints and other cool stuff. And if you'd like, I can take you over there and show you. So here it is, where it's at right now. We have 90% of the timber frame up. We have 80% of the roof at least under wraps right now, and not shingled yet, but at least papered, so it's partially weatherproof. And this is just as of last week. There were plenty of challenges. A big part of it is keeping the tools sharp. Oh my goodness, can't say how critical it is. I suffer from a disease called OMC. OMC syndrome, one more cut syndrome. Anytime I have a blade, I'm just like, oh, I can just make one more cut before I sharpen it. It's fine. And then I end up dulling it more than I should, and then I end up spending way too much time on a cut. I've had to learn to get over that one more cut syndrome and to sharpen tools before they get too dull to be effective. Same rings true with the sawmill, by the way. I found myself sometimes pushing a blade too far and then regretting it when it gets so dull that it ends up snapping. So what I did is I bought the Woodland Mills blade sharpener, and I've been keeping on top of keeping my blades sharp. So that's been great to have. Other than that, one difficulty has been getting the county building department to see things my way when it comes to this somewhat unconventional construction style. They're not used to seeing very many timber frames, and they were a little baffled when I gave them my plans and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. They're like, oh, what? So it took a lot of conversations to get them to approve it, see things my way, both because of the timber framing and how I was building it, but also and especially using my own lumber that did not have grade stamp marks on them and everything. But they eventually worked with me. It's a relatively rural county. They're pretty easygoing, and they're good guys. So they worked with me on that. It just took a little bit of convincing, is all. A couple ways of doing it. You can hire a wood grader, and they can come out and grade all your lumber for you and then stamp it, and then they'll be happy. I did a lot of research on my end for my project, so feel free if you're in the situation where you're having to deal with a building department that doesn't seem to be on board with the idea of you using your own sawn lumber and timbers from your own land to build your house. Feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email or leave me a comment. I'd be happy to share the information that I found. I don't know if you can see behind my head, this beam's name is Grandpa right here. Yep, right there. One thing that we did, you may have noticed, is there are some names carved into a lot of these timbers. These are family members and good friends who actually helped with the milling and with the construction process. If you watch our videos on our channel, you'll see a whole bunch of other people coming around and helping. And how does you get all this labor? Well, it's not labor. It's family and friends. And these are all people who have helped us with milling. So that timber was milled by that person. So when a friend or family member mills the timber with us, we then write their name on it. And now you walk through the house and there's names here and there carved in the timber. It's like, well, hey, this timber here was carved by my friend Mark right here. This one over here was carved by Jacob. This is Elise did this one. My buddy Wes did that one up there. And there's Grandpa over there, Grandma's on the other end, Uncle Ed, Aunt Maddie. I mean, there's Abuelita right here, my mother-in-law, and Tia Alejandra, my sister-in-law. They came out and helped, and they carved a timber. We put their name in it, and now their name will be in the house forever. I told my kids, if they ever sell this house after I die, I will posthumously disown them. This house is going to stay in our generation, in our family for generations, I'm sure. It better, after everything we've put into it. Yeah, we want it to be around for a couple hundred years or more. I mean, indefinitely, right? Longer than I'll be alive for sure. And I really want this house to be in our family for generations and generations. This structure isn't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It's built on a solid foundation, and the timbers are massive. They're not just going to wither away. They're not going to get blown away in a storm. It's just not going to happen. It is just solid and beefy. I mean, these posts are 8x8s right here. These are our main posts. Our main beams up here are 8x10s. Our joists are 6x8s, as are the rafters. It's not going anywhere. It's solid. Well, if you want to get into timber framing and you want to build your own house, don't worry about sleeping a lot. If you like to watch a lot of TV or play a lot of video games, you're out of luck, because you're not going to have time for any of that. It's also kind of a bug, though. Once you get bit, you just can't stop. It's so much fun. It's entertaining. On top of the amount of work it is, it's a joy. I absolutely love every bit of this. But I love what I'm doing out here. It's a buttload of work. It takes its toll on you, but it's well worth it. Absolutely well worth it. So if you're willing to put in the work, put in the time, and put in the muscle and the sweat and the tears, it is totally worth it. You can build yourself something that you otherwise may never be able to do, and potentially may never be able to afford to have someone else do for you. I know I couldn't. Here's another thought I will add. If you looked in the videos, you see a bunch of kids here. We are not hiring underage workers. Those are our kids, and they help. They help every bit of the process. My 13-year-old son was chiseling out the mortises with that big chisel. My 10-year-old son was sanding down the timbers and prepping them for stain. And then my 9-year-old was staining them. He did that yesterday. My daughter actually stained most of the timbers in this whole structure. And they're now building memories. And they'll be able to say, yeah, we helped build the house that we live in. My wife likes to run the crane. She sits right there. She stands right there. She controls it while I'm up there, directing the timbers around. The boys are strapping and unstrapping the timbers as we pick them up. They all help. They all get involved, and it's a great way to not only get the work done, but also bring our family closer together and build some memories. And on top of building a house, we're building memories. And I think that they'll have their whole lives to think back at that and to look back on the time that we spent as a family building our house. And maybe they'll do the same with their kids, or maybe they'll add on to this one or something. but it's invaluable.